Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about a few things before I play the short clip from a reading I just did in which JFK came through as a spirit guide for my client. And over the last 12 to 15 years of me doing readings, I have only brought through JFK as a spirit guide one other time. So this makes it now two. I knew immediately that there was something big he was going to share with all of us. Why? Because something interesting happened prior to this reading. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But I wanted to share first a little bit about Jerry Hicks, Abraham Lincoln, and JFK and how they became my spirit guides. Jerry Hicks was the first one I saw as a full physical form back in 2012. I didn't know who he was, but when he appeared to me, we had a little conversation. Again, he was in full physical form. If I reached out to touch him, maybe my hand would have gone through him. I don't know because I didn't try that. But he looked like he was just one of my friends sitting there. And he spoke to me to click the link on the computer that I was just watching, and it was a clip of an Abraham Hicks video. So I said to Jerry, "But who are you?" And he said, "Click the link, Donna." He knew my name. And again, this was the first experience I've had with something like this. I asked him again, "Who are you?" And he said, "Donna, click the link." As soon as I went back to my computer screen, clicked the link, it took me to a picture of Jerry Hicks and Esther. And that image was exactly who was sitting with me in my room. And he had exactly the same outfit on also. So that was how Jerry Hicks appeared to me. And that started the domino effect of becoming a medium after almost 20 years of a spiritually led life. Abraham Lincoln appeared in one of my first, we'll say, 20 readings that I ever did for friends and friends of friends to practice. And I was reading this woman, and I saw a figure that looked like Abraham Lincoln enter in my mind's eye, though I didn't say that yet to my client. I just said, "There's this figure, it looked dark to me." I didn't really know how to explain it. But then I finally said, "It looks like Abraham Lincoln." And she said to me, "It could be Abraham Lincoln." She was really helping me expand in that moment. So I said a little bit more about Abraham Lincoln, what he was expressing to me in my own body, his sadness, the way he stood for things, and his aloneness at times. And then I said to my client, "Does that resonate with you?" And she said, "Abraham Lincoln has resonated with me my entire life." And she proceeded to tell me a little bit more. So in that moment, I knew I could channel entities, spirits from the non-physical world differently, but I didn't know Abraham Lincoln was there as a spirit guide for me. I thought it was for this woman. In the days, weeks, and months that followed, Abraham Lincoln showed me in so many other ways that he most definitely was a part of me and my past lives. So I did meditations with him. He showed me our past lives together. And a lot of that can be seen on some of my social media. A lot of it I haven't even talked about fully yet, and that was over 10 years ago. JFK, which is who we're here for in today's episode, came to me back in 2016, just after the presidential election. And I sat in meditation and I saw him appear in my head, same way Jerry did it by that time and Abe did at that time. But I'm going to read first to you a quote I got from Jerry Hicks prior to 2016 when I was speaking a lot with him, channeling him. And he said this, which I find very pertinent to the conversation I'm going to continue to have here today. He said, "In the beginning, all I wanted was to get to the end. So much so that I missed everything in the middle. When the end came, an end I never expected, I was left alone and confused. What happened to my beginning, middle, and my end? That tells me so much of how we don't live in the present moment, how we are anxious about the future, how we bring up continuously past things. I'm also on that track with you guys. I do it a lot, and then I always ask after, okay, that doesn't seem pertinent to the present moment. Can I just let this past moment go, or is there something more I need to learn? So let's go back to 2016 when JFK first appeared. I'm so glad I kept a journal as soon as Jerry Hicks appeared. If you're on any sort of spiritual path and you want to remember things, the only way to do that is through a journal, because I go back and read mine and go, oh, I totally forgot about that. So I'm going to go back to my journal here. And it was November 17th, 18th, or 19th. I'm not really making it clear in my journal entry here, but it was early in the morning, and I was getting my sign from Spirit that someone wanted to talk to me, and that was a tickle in my throat. I got a voice in my head that said, get up and meditate. I started to take it seriously at this point, and I got up to meditate. Immediately, I hear the name John Kennedy. And I knew energy at that point, so I could feel that he was introducing himself to me, saying, John Kennedy. I didn't know his energy because this was the first time I've ever seen him or spoken with him or had him present in my head. So he had to make an introduction of himself. I was good with that. So I asked, is this JFK? And he channeled this message through me because I got up and I put it immediately onto my phone. John said, this is not the way that I saw it was going to go back when I was on the earth plane. However, from here, I can see so much more if you only will allow me to help you. At that point, I was a little bit in disbelief. I didn't stay in the meditation. I kind of went back under my blankets, but I did record the voice memo before I fell asleep again. When I got up, I Googled that time frame, November 17th, 18th, 19th, 20, 21, 22. I found a lot of interesting things that happened on the 17th back in JFK's time, big things that happened. But then what came up was he was assassinated on November 22nd in 1963. So the anniversary of his passing was days away, and that was a big enough confirmation for me that I was seeing, channeling, and sensing JFK that morning. And I kept hearing that last line, if you only will allow me to help you. So fast forward, I spent a lot of time with JFK, spent a lot of time with Lincoln, through meditations, through past lives, through channeling. A lot of that is already out there on my blogs, but there's a lot of it that still hasn't been told. With JFK, I sensed through meditation that I was a part of his life, not this lifetime, but a past lifetime where we were in love with each other, but we were very young and we didn't really have the time to expand on that relationship. So what that caused in this lifetime for me, every time I heard from him, every time I saw a picture of him, every time I received a sign from JFK, I would tear up. Sometimes it was a full-blown cry because the sadness and the grief was still there. But again, that was 2016, almost 10 years ago, and I still really haven't understood, is he part of this life with me, or am I just meant to continue to channel him? But I question it. I do question it. With Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy, they come via spirit signs together. One will send me a sign, and then the other one will send me a sign. Most of the time, Lincoln sends me something first, and then JFK will send me something. 4 years ago, I moved into the apartment that I'm in right now. one of my brother's houses. He had purchased it about 6 years prior, so about 10 years ago. And I've been down in the basement a lot in the first 6 or 7 months to do my laundry. There's nothing much in there. He's got some tools that are sitting on a table there, a metal table, but that's about it. If I go down there, it's to put my bike away or do my laundry. So there's one day when I went down there, I found a penny in a really weird place. So I say, "Thank you, Abe. I know this is from you, but I know next that JFK is going to send me a sign." The next day I go into the basement and I'm bringing up some laundry up the stairs, and I could feel my head being turned to the right to look at the table that was holding my brother's tools. I could feel my head being turned. I didn't sense it. I didn't hear spirit say, "Turn your head." I could feel my head being turned. On that table, underneath some of his tools, was an old newspaper. I never looked at it. Didn't interest me. It was covered up by his tools. In that moment, I said to myself, I wonder if JFK is on that newspaper. Is there something about him on this newspaper? And I live in a small town in Connecticut. What are the chances? I removed all the tools, and sure enough, on the table was the front page of my local paper. And on that front page was a picture of JFK. I immediately called my brother and said, "So this newspaper on your table?" He said, "Yeah." "Did you put it there?" He said, "Yeah, I put it there. I don't know when. It was somewhere in the house, and I just decided to keep it." This newspaper clipping was from 1963. 1963, this newspaper. In the house, when he bought it, there was really nothing. Nothing. There was no furniture, but he kept the newspaper. And as the days went by and I thought about and interpreted this message, this sign from JFK, I realized how many years it took and how many people had to be involved with this spirit sign. Can you imagine? 60 years ago, over 60 years ago, someone had to keep that newspaper, leave it in the house, not take it with them each time someone moved or the house was sold. And then my brother had to not throw it away and place it on the table in the basement. And then I had to move in. We're talking over 60 years of planning for this sign to be given to me. Now, I already believed that JFK was my spirit guide, so it wasn't a stretch for me to believe it. It was something new for me to understand that sometimes our messages, our life here takes more than a couple days, a couple weeks, a couple months, a couple years, more than this one took more than 60 years. And it had to come the day after Lincoln gave me a penny. That was a few years ago. A month ago, I'm down in the basement and I decided to make another video about that spirit sign from Lincoln and JFK. So I made a quick video just talking about JFK, not talking about Lincoln. And I don't usually do that. Or we'll say that the sign, I usually see a Lincoln sign, I make a video, and then the next day a JFK sign comes. But I didn't do that this time. I just posted the video on my social media about when JFK sent me that newspaper, or 60 years ago. That newspaper was left for me to see over 60 years later. But I had to follow the path. I had to follow and move into this house, even though I didn't have questions. I just had no place else to go. And my brother said, "Okay, I just got rid of this apartment. Someone just moved out. Why don't you move in?" So a month ago, I posted it to my social media. And within 2 hours, my brother walks through the door of my apartment and says, "I have this for you." And it was a rolled up piece of parchment paper. And as I unrolled it, it was a parchment paper with Lincoln's picture on it and his speech. I asked my brother, "Where did you get that?" He said, "Oh, I just found it a couple months ago in the bathroom that I'm redoing in my house. And there was the Declaration of Independence. And there was also this, Lincoln's speech and a picture of Lincoln." I was blown away. I told him, even though he semi-believes what I do, I told him, "I just posted something on JFK. And here comes Lincoln walking through my door." Lincoln would not let himself be outdone. And again, when my brother bought the house that he was in now, not the one I'm in, but the one he's in now, the woman who passed away in it left everything to him. And he just found this Lincoln rolled up piece of parchment. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Fast forward a week or so later, and I'm asking JFK, I feel like there's something I'm missing with you. There's something I need to know from you. Maybe I haven't been ready over the last 10 years. I don't know. It still feels like there's something you need to tell me. And maybe, am I ready now? I don't know. So I asked JFK, as I've told many of you, I've shared this, when you want a sign from your loved one, your spirit guides, or anybody, ask for it in a dream. That's one of the best ways, easiest ways probably for spirit to send you a sign. So I asked JFK that night, I need a message in my dream. There's something else from you. I just felt it. I don't know how I felt it. I don't know why all of a sudden today was the day I'd ask him to send me a dream. But 10 years later, here I am asking something else of JFK. Maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe I cleared enough through whatever I'm doing here in this lifetime that it was time to know the next step. I go to sleep, and that night I have probably 10 to 15 dreams, all with the same characters, all different themes, but all a wonderful sense of love, a wonderful sense of purpose, a wonderful sense of relationship that I had in these dreams. Now, when I woke up, I did not, I'll say, appreciate that the dreams had this character in it that I didn't want to hear from. It was a character from this lifetime who I continually to still have dreams about, but they are never like the ones I had that night. This time they were filled with love. I didn't understand the dreams. And maybe somebody listening here is saying to yourself, oh, I get it, Donna. I didn't get it that first night. So I said, JFK, I don't get it. Send it to me again. So the next night, I have again 10, 15, 20 dreams. It seemed like a lot, all the same, with this other person in my life who's not in my life anymore, but he was in it. I was in it, all different situations and scenarios. We were doing so many things together. It was so much love, so much empathy, so much everything. I had never felt any of these feelings with that person. That was over 20 years ago. I'd never felt that. It was not that relationship. So when I woke up from the second night, I immediately understood it, that JFK had put part of his soul in that person, and that he and I, had to experience a relationship that was filled with difficulty because that was what we decided to do in this lifetime. And I needed that for my expansion as a human in this lifetime. So I chose it, he chose it, but we weren't meant to be together in this lifetime. He was meant to be JFK, he was meant to marry, he was meant to be the president, and I was meant to receive him as a spirit guide 10 years ago. So now he's with me in a different way. I was set free from that relationship that I was still not struggling with, but I felt like I felt duped in that relationship, and I was still judging myself, let alone that person. But I felt duped. I still kept saying, why did that happen? How was I so attracted to that person and allow that to happen for so long? Well, I had things to learn. And now I can look back on that relationship and say, that was John. That all that emotion, all that grief, of course, is carried with me right now inside me still. I was able to shed so much grief that day when I realized the reasoning that JFK sent me those dreams. And now maybe I could accept JFK as a spirit guide, that I understand how we were together in this lifetime. And I know that probably brings up so many more questions for you right now, because there's so much more to tell about how souls can put themselves in different bodies. And even if JFK was on this physical plane at that time, which he was when this other guy was alive also, how did he manage to do that? Look, there's a lot of things that we still don't have proof of, but we do know, I know, that they can happen, and there's a possibility. The purpose of 2025 is the year of surprises, and this was certainly a big surprise for me. Now I'm going to share with you a little bit of the reading I did the other day where JFK came through immediately, stood by my side, watched the reading for a while, and then decided to speak. But as I was speaking to this woman, of course, I asked her, does JFK resonate with you? She says, well, I don't really have any connection with him. So I asked her, well, do you like him? Because I've never thought about this man. In 60 years of my life, I've never thought about this man. She said, oh, no, I think about him all the time. I think about his purpose. I think about how he could have changed the world had he not been assassinated. And I'm like, so let me stop you. You have a spiritual connection to JFK. And I looked a little bit into her past life with him. But that's how spirit guides come to us. Sometimes it's about how we really want to live in a certain area. Like I was drawn to Washington, D.C., and that's when Abraham Lincoln first appeared for me. I don't know why I wanted to live in that area. I just felt drawn to it. And that's why sometimes we think about historical figures a lot, or we study them, or we write books on them. Most likely, we had some sort of past life connection with them. Do you need to do the work? No, not unless you start seeing a medium and all of a sudden a spirit guide comes through and it's the exact person that you've been thinking about and studying for your lifetime here. So here comes a little clip. It's a short clip of what JFK said, but during that reading with this woman, to have three of us together and JFK right by my side in that reading, I was able to even better let go of the past relationship that I had with that guy. That was just the best times of my life and the worst times of my life. This is something I haven't spoken about a lot. And it's a reason why Lincoln was in my life too. Everybody was in the same soul connection group, this soul group. After this reading and during this reading, I was able to have these aha moments of, I get it now. I can now look back at that relationship with so much love and thankful for JFK, for John. Okay, here we go with that. And thank you again for bearing with me during this. I explained a little bit. And again, if you have questions, you can always shoot me an email at dboylemedium@gmail.com. And please, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, please jot down a review, give it a star rating. This podcast continually is part of the top 10 spiritual podcasts. It is number 20 on the list of 40 podcasts about the afterlife that you need to listen to this year. I'm very thankful and grateful that I had the ability to do this and to continue sharing in this way. You can also follow me on any of my social media platforms where I share daily short videos and posts about my journey. Thanks again for listening. So I feel he's with me again. John's here now for another reason. I've only brought him through once for someone else. I'm going to say this is the second time he's coming through.
Wow.
Just with a yes or no. Do you have any sort of spiritual connection with him? Just a yes or no.
No.
Have you ever thought of him?
Always.
There's the spiritual connection. Do you understand? The answer should have been yes.
Gotcha.
You always think of him. Now you know why you always think of him.
Yes.
And now you know another reason I know why I only got that message a few days ago. Because I needed it for you, as well as me.
Yeah.
And you understand, Spirit knows exactly when you're coming to me. Everything's played out already. So what that told me when I got that dream, those dreams, there was so much I understood about the plan I put in place for myself this lifetime. John's very close to me. I'm just waiting for him to speak the words, right? I feel it's coming, but not yet.
Yeah.
That's how our soul connections work. There's no such thing as good, bad, right, or wrong. Whatever both of us needed to learn, our souls came back to do it that way.
Yeah.
I've spent my life doing this work, not being a medium, but connecting to something that I knew wasn't me. And I couldn't explain it until now. You understand that for yourself too.
Yes.
So you understand when I say time doesn't exist, however, moments in time exist. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Everything comes in the order it's meant to be received in this reading as well as life. Oh, I just got that too. That's really good. These things that I've said for so many years, they're just starting to like take hold. He chose, just like I choose every day, to keep doing my work regardless of when I'm going to get taken from this world. And this world is cyclical. So what he was going through is happening again.
Yeah.
And it will happen again and again. So it's not about how he could have finished it. He finished it. He finished his cycle. And we are still drawing from that. Just like Abe Ligon. Abe was my first guy that came to me. John's work is continuing through us. He doesn't want to tell you his message. He wants to get out of you your message. And he's not JFK. He's the soul who was JFK. And John, looking the same way like he always looks, is in his light gray suit. That's just always the way he pops into my head, just looks the same. So you've seen him come to you before. You've thought of him. You've seen him in your head. Am I correct?
Yes.
He presents on my right side. Typically, that's where you will find him stand also.
Okay.
Very much an energy, though, of, I mean, obviously it's love, but that's not the word I want to use. And like the vibration that I feel when he's right here, it's just such a lightness, not a light as in color, a lightness. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, so get used to that feeling because then you know it's him. Okay.
Okay.
John, speaking now through me. In the scope of our lives, there are things we will not look at. In the scope of our lives, there are things we don't have to look at. The challenge is figuring out which is which. And do you judge yourself for not for focusing too much on something when it doesn't need to be focused on? Or do you let things go when they're meant to be let go of? There are times in our life where things will melt away, and there are times when we have to chunk up with a hammer, with a saw, with an axe, those things. There are times in our lives where we cannot question that. There are times in our life when we just have to go with how we feel and either allow it to melt or do the work to chunk it up into pieces so it will melt faster. That was a beautiful statement, John, about times in our lives. Because this is a time, he's saying, stating it more and like pounding his fist this way. This is a time where we must start speaking more. We must start speaking truly, truly the truth, not the truth as we feel comfortable with sharing it. It is the time when we need to speak truly the truth.
Yes.